Hi folks, this is all the fruit. And here I have a couple of the big pots of the Kentucky coffee tree. This tree is not only native to Kentucky but to many parts of the eastern US, well into some little pockets in southern Canada. It's a pretty well-known tree in that area. It has many uses and many stories. Well, the first use is ornamental. It's not so easy to see from bigger trees, but the branches don't branch too much. So with younger trees, you can have a tree that's several meters tall and has just 3 or 4 twigs, looking very distinctive. Also the big bipinnate leaves are quite distinctive. You can imagine, well, now we have mid-April, but in summer when the leaves are out, just a few thick branches with those huge leaves on them. Quite an unusual sight. That's why in Germany it's called the antler tree. Also in America, Kentucky coffee tree is the standard name, but antler tree, stack antler tree also works. Yeah, so interesting ornamental. The wood is used for carpentry. There were a couple cultural uses, like the seeds were used in games by the Native Americans, but the most important uses are the edible ones. Well, when it comes to Fabaceae, you always have to be careful. There are so many important foods in the Fabaceae family, like beans and peas and so on. But for example, normal kidney beans are highly toxic when uncooked. And with the Kentucky coffee tree, there are a lot of controversies. So I'm harvested those fruits in April, and what's amazing that the peduncles are actually still alive. So they fell off the tree quite recently and might have hung even longer. There are more fruits hanging on the tree. I mean, that happens also with other trees, but usually the peduncles don't survive the winter. So, how can you eat this thing? Well, the most famous use is, of course, the use of the seeds as a coffee substitute. Apparently, some Native American groups in the eastern US, well, ate them roasted like chestnuts. That's one use. Another one, if you roast them a little bit more and grind them up, you can make a drink similar to coffee. And who was it? Was it Jefferson or Edison? Of some of the founding fathers, I think, wrote that the Kentucky settlers, they adapted this custom from the natives. But as soon as they established good connections to the ports, they ditched the Kentucky coffee in favor of the imported coffee. So it seems that the quality of this stuff is not that good. The other edible use, a lot of sources say that the pulp is sweet. However, basically every source that talks about the edibility of this thing also talks about the toxicity. An alkaloid called cysteine is present inside the fruits, and so any type of consumption can lead to poisoning. It seems to be present in the seeds and in the pods, and actually pretty much every source I read that says that the seeds are edible says that the unripe seeds and pods are toxic, and in the next sentence they say that the pulp is sweet. They don't even say the pulp is edible, they say the pulp is sweet. I think they all copy from one another. One source said the pulp tastes like caramel. I mean, it sure looks quite tempting, like some goo, like some sort of sticky goo. There are a lot of similar Fabaceae with edible fruits. The most similar one, also native to the eastern US, the Gleditschia. Well, with the Gleditschia, it's like this. If you catch the pulp at a perfect state, it tastes more or less like kiwi jam. Otherwise, it's one of the most disgusting tastes. It's hard to describe. And this, the big pods remind me of Glydicia. The Glydicia pods are much longer, but not that thick. And the pulp inside also reminds me of Glydicia. Well, this is a nice big chunk of goo. It's a little bit like glue or dried fruits. So folks, don't do this because the sources still cannot decide whether this stuff should rather be considered edible or toxic. Sweet on the tip of the tongue. It was sweet on the tip of the tongue and an interesting feeling, but further back on the tongue and on the palate, it produces a very unpleasant sensation, a mouth-watering sensation, but mouth-watering not in a good way. It's like your mouth tries to produce as much spit as possible to get rid of this horrible taste. And what is it? It's like burning, pungent. It just tells your mouth, get rid of me ASAP, which is very strange because okay, let's try the other fruit. Maybe there was something wrong with this one, although I doubt it. An even bigger piece of goo. Looks like a piece of a honeycomb. Sweet and harmless at first. Not very sweet and also savory and with some mild flavor. Yeah. Interesting. On the tip of the tongue, it is quite pleasant, but in the back of the tongue and in the palate, it's really disgusting. What a pity. It's exactly like Glydicia. But it also tells me that there is some hope, because the stuff might be too old or too rotten or whatever. So, even if it's not edible right now, maybe it will be good in autumn. Some sources say you can collect the pods throughout autumn, winter and spring, but that might be for harvesting the seeds. I'm not gonna harvest and roast the seeds. I mean, those have, the two together seem to have only one well-developed seed. But yeah, I must say, like, from the 6 or 7 times when I tried Glydicia, I got tasty pulp only once. If this is just as sketchy, then it's not really a reliable food source. I mean, the goo sure has, there is sure a lot of goo. It's quite easy to collect, but this horrible taste, no. Totally not edible. It's still burning in the back of my throat. Yeah, I have to repeat this in autumn. Maybe now it's too late. Maybe it's already too rotten. I mean, it's discolored and stuff. Also, some animal has opened a lot of the pods. Apparently just eating the seeds. Might be a bird or a rodent. Who knows? Yeah, tell me, folks, do you have any experience with Kentucky coffee? I'm really curious. Also, stay tuned for a lot more fruit videos, hopefully with some better tasting fruits in the future. And of course, don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe.